Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm a Central Texas gardener in Zone 8B, and in today's video, I wanted to give you a garden tour. It's late summer, and we are transitioning into the fall, so I wanted to give you a few options as you think about what you might be wanting to plant in the fall, to include some vegetable options. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. All right, so I wanted to kind of focus on at least this garden bed to start with, and the first plant I wanted to talk about was this whale's tongue agave. And if you remember in previous videos, we had a really bad hailstorm on Mother's Day, and then I had a roof replaced, and this plant sustained a lot of damage. You can see these outer leaves are quite damaged, and but you can see all of this new growth here. This whale's tongue agave is going to stay green for you through the entire year. It is very prickly, if you can see the spines here, so probably not a great plant where if you're gonna have to get close to walking near it, because it'll get you. This can get, I think, like 4 to 5 feet in the right conditions. It is cold hardy down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, but I have, like once it gets down to the teens and it's wet and raining, I will cover this with frost cloth and plastic sheeting. Next here, you'll notice I've got 3 right skullcap, and that's these plants with the little purple flowers here. And these are also evergreen. They are our Texas native, and they typically stay about 1 to 1 foot in height and spread. But you can see that while that's true of the height for these plants, the spread, these are like 18 to 24 inches. These also took a huge hit with our hail and the roofing, but they have rebounded very nicely. And I want to contrast that to my pink skullcap that I have in my yard. I have it spread throughout. It's very similar, but a native of Mexico, and but really well adapted to our area. Those have not rebounded as nicely. They don't fill out quite as nicely, at least they haven't for me. So my preference, if you're going to use skullcap, I think this has just performed better for me, this purple skullcap, or the right skullcap versus the pink skullcap. Stepping back here, this is a new plant to me. I put it in, I think, at the beginning of June. This is an American beautyberry, and this is a Texas native. It is named for these beautiful magenta berries along its branches in between the leaves. And these berries are actually edible by animals and humans. They're not super sweet, but I think you can make like jams and jellies out of this. This is deciduous, gets about 4 to 6 feet in height and spread, as I understand it. Prefers a partial sun exposure, and that's where this is right now. And so I've really just been enjoying looking at these berries, and I can see the birds. I've got a bird feeder over here, and I can see that they come out over here, and they're eating these berries as well. So I don't know if you can see these yellow bushes here. I've got one there, I've got one there, and then I've got one here. These are all zexmenia, and this is a Texas native that typically gets about 3 by 3 foot in height and spread, very drought tolerant, loved by birds and pollinators alike. And I wanted to share that this year is a volunteer. It just is growing in nothing but this decomposed granite. Its roots may have gone a bit deeper and found some soil, but it is just thriving in this environment. And I would say that most Texas natives will tolerate poor soil as long as there's good drainage, and granite certainly offers that. Here is my Texas Lantana. It's a Texas native, and this is a spreading shrub. Gets about 4 to 6 feet in spread, and that's about how big this is. Can get that in height as well, though most of mine have stayed under about 4 feet in height. It does very well in drought conditions, but if you want it to flower, you'll have to give it a little bit of water. It does have, the flowers turn into this sort of fruit here, and the fruit is poisonous. And so if you've got children or animals, you just have to be a little careful about that. This is a golden ball lead tree, and it is native, I think, to the Edwards Plateau region in Texas. And I put this in the fall, and I noticed that the branches were really kind of hanging over because all of the foliage was just at the tip of the branch. And so my husband, who's very smart, told me to selectively trim some of those tips off, and that would then push the energy to the nodes lower in the branches, and that they would back bud. And that is what has happened. So all of this is from me selectively trimming the tips of these branches here. And for the most part, the main branches of the tree are now upright again. They're no longer weeping, and you can see all of that new growth here. And so if you look at the video, I think I did a video of this just last month or in July, and you can see the difference in the foliage growth. Here is a white yarrow, and I think these are native in most parts of the United States, or naturalized, but you can find them everywhere. Some yarrow I think have medicinal benefits. I don't know if this particular variety does or not, but this is a butterfly magnet. I'm always seeing bees and butterflies out here on this, and it seems to have performed better in the hottest parts of the year. So really started to bloom mostly for me at the end of July and then through August. All right, I've got Charlie here. This is my little attack Yorkie poo, and he wants to bark a lot, so he's gonna sit with me. But this is a Mexican mint marigold, and this is a fall blooming plant, and it's actually used as an herb, and it has a smell of tarragon and the flavor of licorice. It gets about 18 to 24 inches in height and spread. I've got 3 plants here, and I wasn't really great with watering them, so I think one of them is really struggling. But a great way to extend your blooming season into the fall. All right, this is a desert willow, and this is a Texas native that is very drought tolerant. It is deciduous, so it'll drop its leaves in the winter time, but you can see it's just covered with flowers, and this requires very little water, but if we get a good rain, it just blooms profusely. And so you can see the little trumpet-shaped flowers on this tree. The bees and the pollinators just get right in there and get that nectar, and it's a lot of fun to watch. But there's always things out here in this plant, to include hummingbirds. So I wanted to talk about these 2 trees. Both of these are redbud trees. Okay, this one is a Texas redbud, and this one is a forest pansy. In previous videos, I've commonly referred to this as a Texas redbud or western redbud, but a viewer pointed out to me that that's actually not accurate. The botanical name for the Texas redbud and the western redbud are different, and so I'll put that in the description box so that you know what this is versus the western redbud. This forest pansy, I have also referred to this as an eastern redbud, and I think that's accurate, but it may not be. So let me know if you know that forest pansy and eastern redbud are synonymous, because it's kind of been hard for me to figure out. But both of these start off with beautiful purple flowers in the spring, and then this forest pansy actually starts out with more purple foliage. But you can see here now, it's the 2nd of September right now, and the leaves are pretty green. And so I think in the heat of the summer, the foliage just kind of turns more into a green. The forest pansy tends to take the heat a lot less than the Texas redbud. This is a lot more heat tolerant. Standing behind this gomphrena here, and this is an annual variety of gomphrena, although I think that there are perennial versions. And these gomphrena are a reliable bloomer in the hottest parts of the year. And so through July and August, these have done wonderful, and they've just offered easy color, very drought tolerant plants. I'm hardly out here watering it. I really think they just catch a little extra water from the irrigation for the lawn. But if you're aware of those perennial varieties of gomphrena, let us know in the comment section. And They do come in different heights. That's something else you're going to want to keep in mind. So there's great border options that are lower, but I think there's also taller varieties. As we transition to fall, the other thing I would tell you is it's a great time to cut back on a lot of your perennials, like prune them down so that they are ready to bloom for you and fill out a little bit better. So this is an autumn sage, and this is evergreen. This one's a white variety, and very drought tolerant plant, does very well in a Texas garden. But I did prune it back so that here, as we transition into fall, which we Texans like to call our second spring, I can get another show of blooms and I've got a fuller plant. And so I've done that to a lot of my Texas perennials, is pruning back. So again, you may have heard me say our second spring. So that means a lot of times in Texas, we have like a whole nother season we can sow crops that we'd normally sow in spring, again, right before fall hits. So a few weeks ago, I think actually last week, I put in some of these cucumber seeds, and you can see they're coming up. These are marketmore cucumbers. They get about 6 to 8, the fruit 6 to 8 inches, and the plant apparently does well in heat and cooler weather. So it takes 60 days to maturity. So hopefully I'll get another nice season full of cucumbers. I've also sown some squash. I think I put 4 seeds in this area here, but I've only got one that took. This is just summer, it's either summer squash or dark green zucchini. I don't know which one it is, but I've also started that so that I can get maybe some squash or zucchini in the fall. And then here I have got my sweet potato. And this was like 2 slips. That is it. And you can see how prolific it has been. I think it might be getting close to getting ready to harvest because I can see some of the leaves dying off. But I think these take 120 days to maturity, and they've been growing for about 90. So maybe by the end of September, I can harvest my sweet potatoes. If you're looking for some great Texas native plant options for fall, or maybe even considering taking advantage of the fall rains with rainwater harvesting, check out these next videos. Until the next one, y'all take care.